May 1917. Rain hammers the marble facade of Winfield Hall in sheets, water sliding down pink and beige stone carved with scarabs and serpents, as if the house itself is weeping. Inside, a party breathes beneath crystal chandeliers. Cigar smoke curls toward gold-leafed ceilings, where Woolworth's own mustachioed face watches from winged effigies above. Glasses clink. Laughter rises. And yet, Frank Woolworth stands apart from all of it, eyes fixed on the family crest above the great fireplace. 3 carved faces gaze back at him, Helena, Jessie, Edna. Then comes the sound. A crack, sharp and decisive. A fracture tears straight through the marble, straight through Edna's, as if the stone itself has been holding something back and can no longer manage it. PAUSE moments later, the telephone rings in the library. A servant answers. The color leaves his face. Edna is gone. Found at the Plaza Hotel, 33 years old in her lace dress, beside an empty vial. No autopsy is performed. Record reads suffocation from mastoiditis. The whispers among the upper floors of society read something else entirely: a slow surrender brought on by one mistress too many, one humiliation she could not outlast. Woolworth sets down the receiver, returns to the hall, stares at the fresh fracture in the stone. That night the party ends. And the house never feels the same again. If that sent a chill down your spine, hit like and leave a comment below. Have you ever walked into a place that felt heavier than it had any right to share it? Now let's step back into the corridors where Nichols built an empire, and that empire quietly built its own tomb. Frank Winfield Woolworth begins on a failing potato farm in Rodman, New York, 11 miles south of Watertown soil. So poor, the mortgage arrives more reliably than any harvest. Born April 13, 1852, to a Civil War veteran and a quietly ambitious mother named Fanny, he milks cows before dawn and pulls potatoes until his hands crack and blister. He hates every frozen minute of it. At 4 years old, he announces he will become a merchant. That is not a childhood fantasy. That is a forecast. His mother Fanny sees something the farmland cannot contain. She scrimps to pay for bookkeeping classes in Watertown, a genuine sacrifice on a household that counts every dollar. Frank rides the family pony into town after dark, studies ledgers by lamplight, but spends longer staring at shop windows than at any balance sheet. What draws him is not it is the arrangement, the way a well-dressed window could stop a stranger mid-stride and make them want something they didn't know they needed 10 seconds earlier. That instinct, that visual intelligence, will eventually be worth hundreds of millions. In 1873, no one knows that yet. The humiliation that truly shapes him comes in a Watertown department store. He and his brother Charles scrape together 50 cents to buy their mother a birthday. The clerks laugh at the coins, mock the boys. Frank walks out, buys the scarf elsewhere, and tells Charles quietly, one day 50 cents. We'll buy 5 things, 10 things, and every customer will be treated. That grievance festers for a decade. In 1873, at 20 years old, he walks into Augsbury and More Dry Goods in Watertown and offers to work 3 months for nothing. What's worth noting here is that no one in that store sees what's actually standing in front of them, a clumsy, awkward young man who freezes behind the counter, but who dresses a shop window like no one they've ever hired. Colors grouped, items angled to catch the light. Passers-by stop walking and come inside. He begins to understand something the entire retail industry has missed. Don't negotiate with customers. Don't hide merchandise. Don't make buyers feel small. Put the goods in front of them. Fix the price. Let the product sell itself. 6 years later, William Moore advances $300 in merchandise symbols, Combs soap pencils, the unglamorous building blocks of a revolution. Frank opens in Utica, New York, February 22, 1879. Everything a nickel. The first week is promising. Then, foot traffic disappears. Wrong location. He repays the advance, hauls the sign south, and reopens in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, June 21, 1879. Opening day, $127.65 in sales. He adds 10-cent goods. Transactions double. Profit arrives. He brings his brother in, recruits partners willing to put their own savings on the line alongside his stock. Every success branches into something. By 1889, 12 profitable stores. By 1959, outlets revenue exceeding $5 million, the equivalent of roughly $155 million today. His red storefronts become landmarks from New England to the Midwest. He cuts out the middlemen, entirely buying direct from factories in volume entire production runs of candy notions and dry goods at prices no competitor could match. Margins swell. A syndicate quietly forms among former colleagues and family members, self-styled friendly rivals, who share buying power, product intelligence, and merchandise runs while maintaining the appearance of independent competition. Cousin Seymour Knox with 100 outlets, Fred Kirby with 84, Earl Charlton with 48, Frank's own chain 319. A family empire assembled over 2 decades from a grudge and November 12, 1911, a merger creates a single corporation, 596 stores, $65 million in capital. No bank loans. No public shares issued. A farmer's son now controls retail from the Atlantic seaboard to the Rocky Mountains, and he has done it entirely on his own terms. And then, the cathedral. In 1910, he purchases a full Broadway block facing City Hall Park, hires architect Cass Gilbert, and sends him to study the Houses of Parliament in London. Plans escalate rapidly from 12 stories to 6,792 feet of cream terracotta Gothic spires and gargoyle sentinels watching the street below. 69 pneumatic caissons driven to bedrock. The steel frame rises faster than any building. New York cost $13.5 million, paid entirely in cash without a single cent borrowed. He demonstrates the elevator safety system himself. At the opening, an egg dropped 700 feet, caught unbroken by the brakes. The crowd applauds. He nods, unsurprised. It opens April 24, 1913. President Woodrow Wilson illuminates 80,000 light bulbs from the White House with the press of a button. The Reverend Parks Cadman names it the Cathedral of Commerce. In the lobby, a bronze caricature immortalizes Woolworth counting nickels. He doesn't mind. For 17 years, he has the highest private office on earth. Winfield Hall begins as a declaration against. In 1914, Frank purchases a 16-acre estate in Glen Cove, Long Island, overlooking the Sound. The original wooden manor burns in November 1916, cause never officially determined. The replacement plans, however, are already drawn. Architect Charles Pierpont Henry Gilbert designs something fireproof and deeply peculiar, 56 rooms, Italian Renaissance, in form clad entirely in imported marble and limestone, quarried from European sources. Construction costs, $9 million, the equivalent of $200 million in today's terms. The grand pink marble staircase alone accounts for $2 million of that. Ceilings dipped in 24-karat gold leaf, 16 fireplaces, 12 bedrooms, and below ground, a network of tunnels snaking between structures, hidden passages, connecting rooms with no apparent domestic purpose, no logical explanation ever given to staff or guests. A trapdoor in the ballroom ceiling opens into a concealed chamber above. The entrance is framed by a full-scale marble replica of the Arc de Triomphe. The driveway is lined with life-size Grecian statues standing at intervals like a silent greeting committee that never leaves. 70 gardeners maintain the grounds. 75 servants run the interior. What's worth pausing on is the library. The shelves hold no business memoirs, no political biographies, no novels. They hold Egyptian mythology, ceremonial ritual, and texts on the occult. Napoleon's campaigns in Egypt in 1798 had ignited a fascination with ancient symbolism across European aristocracy, and Woolworth absorbs it completely. Scarabs and serpents are carved into the stonework throughout. Winged figures bearing Woolworth's own mustachioed face leer down from the room after room is styled after a different lost empire: Ming Dynasty, Elizabethan, Louis XIV, Marie Antoinette, each one a museum piece, none of them lived in with any warmth. And at the center of it all, a room unlike any other. An exact replica of Napoleon's bedroom at Hôtel de Malmaison, a canopied bed finished in 14-karat gold leaf, reportedly sourced from the emperor's original furnishings. Pink marble bath. Empire furniture arranged from period illustrations to the last measured detail. Adjacent to it, connected by a private corridor, the Empress Josephine room, decorated for a mistress, not for Jenny, whose own bedroom sits at the opposite end of the estate. A plain single bed. A rocking chair. A nurse stationed outside the door. Frank wears Napoleon's uniforms, the bicorn hat, the gold epaulettes. He sleeps in the emperor's bed. He sits on the red velvet throne. Staff report hours spent alone behind the closed door of the Malmaison room, undisturbed, speaking to no one. He believes in reincarnation, specifically that he is Napoleon reborn, this time conquering the world not with cannon fire, but with nickels and dimes. The Egyptian motifs multiplying across Winfield Hall are not decorative whims. They are immortality symbols deliberately chosen, mirroring a man who is terrified of being ordinary and equally terrified of being forgotten. That is precisely when the real fractures begin, not in the marble, but within the family itself. Jenny, his wife of decades, has long since retreated from herself, her mind dimming through what her era called nervous collapse. His 3 daughters are displayed along Fifth Avenue addresses, like window arrangements: Helena stable, Edna fragile, Jessie restless and resistant. Gifts arrive from Europe in waves: hand-painted dolls, bolts of silk, elaborate music boxes. What never arrives in any shipment from any port is their father's time. Edna marries Franklin Laws Hutton in 1907, despite early warning signs that Frank himself chooses to overlook. The marriage collapses slowly and publicly, drinking that escalates across seasons, infidelities, conducted with a casualness that amounts to contempt. Frank confronts Hutton once. Nothing changes. The isolation inside Edna deepens with each passing year, each new rumor confirmed, and she is still expected to grace with composure. And then May 1917. The Plaza Hotel. A lace dress. A pearl necklace. A window overlooking the city she once moved through with such carefully maintained confidence. A letter confirming yet another affair. An empty vial on the carpet beside her. It is 4-year-old Barbara who finds her mother. The coroner signs the death certificate without examination. The file is later reported missing. The crack in the Winfield family crest that night is no longer metaphor. It is fact. Frank retreats entirely after Edna. His moods swing without warning, from feverish, manic energy to days of total collapse where he does not leave the Napoleonic bedroom. His health begins to fail in the most preventable, most self-inflicted way, a lifelong terror of dentists, long suppressed and quietly indulged, now collecting every cent of its debt. Teeth decay unchecked. Infection spreads from jaw to bloodstream. Doctors warn him in the plainest possible terms. He refuses every treatment they offer. April 5, 1919, sepsis enters the bloodstream. 3 days later, April 8, The 5 days short of his 67th birthday, Frank Winfield Woolworth takes his last breath at Winfield Hall in the marble palace he built to last forever. His rival Sebastian Cresquet closes every one of his stores on the day of the funeral. It is in its way the most sincere tribute Frank ever receives. There is one thing, however, he never does. The will never signed. A complete draft sits ready on a desk, distributing the estate with apparent fairness to his daughters, the company and Jenny's ongoing care. Superstition, a man who cannot bring himself to contemplate the paperwork of his own, ending it remains unsigned at the moment it matters most. The courts fall back to his 1889 were written in a different era, for a different life, everything to his beloved wife Jenny, who has long since lost the capacity to understand what she is receiving. $76 million personal holdings Manhattan Real Estate Corporate shares flows into the hands of a woman who no longer recognizes her own reflection in the mirror. A committee manages the estate daughters Helena and Jessie and Hubert Parson, a company executive who spends the following years building himself a Fifth Avenue mansion, a country estate called Shadow Lawn, and a collection of newer automobiles than Frank ever owned. Jenny lingers 5 more years, passing May 21, 1924 at 71. The estate, grown to $78 million, divides into thirds: Helena McCann, Jessie Donahue, and Barbara Hutton, age 11. Her share set at $26 million, held in trust until adulthood. Her father, largely indifferent, as an investor, manages to grow it through the 1929 crash. The question that hangs in the air is this: does that kind of money bring peace? Barbara's debutante ball at the Ritz-Carlton in 1930 costs $60,000. Outside breadlines stretch around city blocks. Newspapers call her the poor little rich girl. The name follows her for the rest of her life, like a shadow she cannot outrun, no matter how many countries she crosses or how many titles she owns. 8 marriages, 8 attempts to purchase something money was never designed to provide genuine devotion, lasting warmth, the sense of being chosen for yourself rather than for your balance sheet. Alexis M. Divani, in 1933, a Georgian prince of decorative title and considerable appetite for her funds, divorced 2 years later at a settlement of $2 to $3 million. Kurt von Haugwitz, Reventlow, in 1935, their son Lance, born the following year, the custody battle that follows, leaving both parents diminished. Cary Grant, in 1942, 3 years as Hollywood's most photographed couple. Cash and Carrie, as the tabloids called them, then a clean break with no alimony accepted. Not because Grant was indifferent, because it was the one thing left he could still refuse to take from her. 4 more marriages follow that pattern: a prince, a diplomat, a baron, another prince. Each cycle of infatuation, extravagance, and disillusionment runs its course faster than the last. Barbara funds entire lifestyles, absorbs accumulated debts, and emerges from each marriage smaller than she entered it. Her son Lance is the one steady light in the later decades. He builds the Scarab racing team with genuine discipline. Fields cars that defeat Ferraris on the international circuit, earns respect entirely on merit, not inheritance. Composure amid his mother's endless chaos. Then July 24, 1972, a Cessna scouting his property near Aspen flies into a blind canyon during a thunderstorm. An inexperienced pilot, Lance, age 36, does not come home. Barbara shatters. The final years unfold in a suite at the Beverly Wilshire, a body worn to fragility by decades of self-neglect, anorexia, and addiction, surrounded by attendants whose loyalty is calibrated precisely to the size of the payments clearing each month. She passes May 11, 1979 at 66 years old. Biographers place the remaining balance in her accounts at approximately $3,500. The exact figure remains disputed. The trajectory from $26 million to almost nothing across a single lifetime no one disputes. She is buried at Woodlawn Cemetery in the Bronx, beside the mother she found on a Plaza Hotel carpet when she was 4 years old. Foot Locker still operates today. Woolworth's instinct for fixed-price simplicity, reborn in sneakers and athletic wear. Dollar stores across the world still carry the torch of the original idea he lit in Lancaster in 1879. Clear prices, open shelves, dignity at the counter. The Woolworth building stands as luxury residential, now its lobby, intact, its bronze caricatures still facing each other across the marble floor after more than a century. No one named Woolworth has worked there since 1999. Winfield Hall still stands on its Long Island bluff. After Frank's passing, Jenny abandons it entirely, and the estate drifts through decades of disuse. It briefly becomes the Grace Downs Model and Air Career School students reporting sounds from the locked Marie Antoinette room, a weeping woman glimpsed and gone, a secretary who encounters something in that corridor and dies of a heart attack months later. Unexplained fires. An organ playing alone at night in a room with no one in it. A 2015 blaze damages sections worth millions cause officially unresolved. The mansion has since been sold, renovated partially, and stands largely empty again. Tunnels, silent passages, undisturbed scarabs still watching from the stonework. A man built an empire from pennies to prove his worth, erected an indestructible home against fire and against time, and carved his own face among the gods. His family paid the price he never thought to invoice. Ambition bought height. It bought marble and symbols of immortality. It did not buy peace. It did not buy loyalty. It did not purchase a single afternoon sitting beside his wife before her mind drifted beyond reach, or one evening beside his daughter before the vial on the carpet ran empty. What remains when the nickels stop counting? A crack in the stone. An empty vial on a hotel carpet. A small plane in a mountain canyon. And a question that still hangs in the gold-leafed silence of a palace built to last forever. Did the emperor ever truly leave, or did the palace claim him long before anyone thought